Not a word was said.
All right. Bill Hammer, there we saw it.
Yep.
Joe Biden and President-elect Trump walking down the steps together and to take that short ride to the Capitol, but a most impactful ride, I guess you could say, as the world watches this peaceful transition of power in the United States.
Yeah, Joe Biden was in Charleston, South Carolina yesterday, and he made some comments about the 3 Israeli women who were released. Life will be like at age 82. Largely spent in Wilmington, Delaware. As president, and enter Donald Trump, who has the energy sometimes.
So, good morning. We're gonna watch the presidential inauguration today. It's happening. It's part of American history. So we're gonna watch it, and we're going to have civil discourse, and we're not gonna be fighting or angry. We're gonna just watch this thing, you know.
It is, and Brett Baer and Martha McCallum are going to lead our special coverage after our show this morning, but I get to have them as our guests right now as we watch this motorcade roll out. Martha McCallum, get your thoughts first as we watch history being made.
Well, you guys have had fantastic coverage all morning, and it is a spectacular day in Washington, D.C. The sky is blue. There is a snow covering all over this beautiful capital city of the United States of America, and I just feel that only in retrospect can we understand how dark some of the periods of the last 5 to 8 years have been in a lot of ways. I mean, we watched a president under a tremendous amount of pressure through his first presidency, then COVID and George Floyd. You remember them tugging at statues just outside of our window here. And I feel like there is a perhaps golden era underway. We will see. But that's the feeling that you get in Washington this morning as we watch this play out, Dana.
And Brett, it's a short drive from especially with no traffic and no lights. They can get there pretty quickly.
Yeah, they can get there quickly.
Go.
Imagine being in that car.
America Day, baby.
That conversation ongoing, all that's happened over recent months. We go back to the June 27th debate that changed the dynamic for President Biden. But I also reflect on the time that they met at the White House after the election. And President-elect Trump at the time said it was a cordial exchange. And these are two men that have been in politics now for a long time.
We're going to listen in to some of these people here who gathered early on to cheer him along the way. All right. Martha, you also have the first ladies together. You can imagine what that car ride is like. I mentioned that I think.
How you doing, Camaro?
Good
morning, bud.
Than just the weather, but they do have a love for children.
Struggling on which one I want to watch.
And a love for their husbands, who they need to support.
Struggling if I want to watch Fox News, or if I want to listen to the haters at CNN cry, or if I want to watch.
I hope they're exhaling a bit in this moment. It has been a very difficult several months for them.
That's kind of where I'm at, man. I kind of want to see both sides of that.
Unraveling in that campaign that was going to require a dramatic change. And I also thought, watching Kamala Harris this morning, this is a woman, a vice president, who thought maybe today was going to be her
So
day.
NBC, Fox News.
President, and that was not to be. But you know, I also kind of miss the moments of watching everyone walking outside. I always love seeing the First Lady in a beautiful coat. She looks amazing today, walking down next to the president.
Well, I better mute the other one. Good Lord.
As a sitting president, you know, once he gets off on Capitol Hill, he will watch moments later President Trump being sworn back into office. Of course, the two men, as we saw, got
they got an MSNBC
together, talk about, you know, being in close quarters with someone.
I'm sure. MSNBC. MSNBC.
Also, I should just note, a remarkable thing that we're seeing here is an empty Washington.
Yeah, it is. Aren't there hundreds of thousands of people there?
Yeah, I mean, you can see some people there on the side. It's sort of sparse. There are some Trump supporters who are there, but there are not very many people there at all. And the protests are also not visible in large numbers. We saw the People's March this weekend in Washington, which did have thousands of people at it, but nothing on the scale that we saw in 2017. But also Trump supporters there in much smaller numbers. And that may be because the inaugural festivities have been moved indoors. But honestly, I expected this. Somebody there with the Ukraine flag. I doubt that's a Trump supporter. I expected this shot that we had here to be 20 deep on both sides of the street the whole way up, and it's really not. It's an interesting thing. It reminds me a little bit. I forget.
Come on, MSNBC, get your damn video together.
The predictions of mass crowds for Trump at each.
They are talking shit about how many people's there.
We saw these small
first of all, it's snowing and it's cold. So
supporters turned up, but not in numbers that were anything like you would think from the discourse around it.
And also, Joy mentioned this before, but the coldest morning I've ever spent in my life was 6 a.m. to 1 o'clock on January 20th, 2009, when it was about 20 degrees out, and it was so cold, and there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people in the streets, freezing. I mean, truly freezing. So, you know, it's cold there.
It does speak a bit to the sort of lonely progress of oligarchy, right? I mean, MAGAism isn't a mass movement. It isn't a broad movement among the American people. It's a movement about a third of American adults. It's not a movement of great popular culture. I think Snoop has found that out over the weekend, and Nelly have found out that, oh, wait a minute, it isn't a broadly beloved movement.
Yes, it is.
And I think this kind of speaks to it. And when you think about it, it is a movement driven.
Seems like it's a broadly loved movement since
who constructed the court
since he was elected.
Immunized Donald Trump from criminality. Essentially, they said Trump essentially is the king, but
since he was reelected.
Kings have not always been wildly popular.
By the largest
King George was so unpopular, the U.S.
amount of victory in a long time.
To form a separate
So it seems like it was a pretty big deal.
So if he is the king, that does not mean that he is a beloved and broadly loved king. It means that Leonard Leo constructed a court that immunized him, and Elon Musk funded with $200 million and waving $1 million around in the state of Pennsylvania an election in which he was able to win with roughly the same number of people who voted for him the last time, and with 19 million voters on the other side staying home. It's some sense, it's a Pyrrhic victory, I think, for him in terms of his need. If you talk to people like Mary Trump about what his needs are emotionally, that he wants the love and adoration of the American people, but you can't buy that with Elon's money. You can only earn that with great results. His first administration did not have great results. It had 1 million people dead of COVID. So you have to earn that. And he can purchase the presidency and power, but you can't purchase adoration.
I was interested at the inaugural, pre-inaugural rally, Joy, that he had last night at the Capital One Arena in Washington. The sort of key, the key phrase that he led up to in his big remarks was this, quote, "I will act with historic speed and strength and fix every single crisis facing our country." All right, then.
All of them.
And go. So we'll see. Joining us now is our friend Alex Wagner. Alex, it's good to have you here watching these visuals this morning. Some unexpected stuff, some absolutely as scripted and as expected. What's been going through your mind?
I feel like we all have feelings about what's happening, but I keep thinking about the larger audience for this, right? There's obviously the domestic audience. In particular, I think of the migrant families, both documented and undocumented, whose fates very much hang in the balance in the course of the next 12 to 24 hours. I'm thinking about women and girls in red states who maybe have some version of bodily autonomy because of access to medication abortion. That too could go away precipitously. I'm thinking about the international audience. where, you know, if you're Vladimir Putin, it's a great day, but if you're the people of Ukraine and Vladimir Zelensky, this is just a very complicated series of proceedings. I'm thinking, of course, as I always do, about the people of Panama, Greenland, and Canada.
They are filled with hate.
Probably are scratching their heads right now at best. You know, it's the implications of this are being felt across the globe, and I think that there's a lot of trepidation, certainly some excitement in certain corners of the world, but a whole lot of worry. And I do believe Donald Trump when he says he's going to try and do things quickly. I think I hope you guys have carbo-loaded and are prepared, because I think it's going to be a very busy next 24 hours.
Ever since I turned 50, I've been carbo-loading. Joining us now from
I almost don't want to listen to them, to be honest.
Where Biden and Trump have just arrived, is Chris Jansen. Chris, tell us what you're seeing from your vantage point.
Well, this is an extraordinary moment, clearly, Rachel, as we watch the motorcade just arrived. For Donald Trump, a comeback after a clear victory in November, but also someone who left this Capitol 4 years ago as something of a pariah, in large part because of what happened inside that Capitol on January 6th. But he rebranded that as a day of love. He rebranded his own presidency. He rebranded the Republican Party, and now here he is with Joe Biden. Though, as I was listening to your conversation, I was reminded that in many ways it's exactly what Joe Biden talked about in his farewell address, right? About how now it becomes everyone's responsibility. The very first inauguration I ever covered in 1993 for Bill Clinton, Maya Angelou wrote an extraordinary poem called On the Pulse of Morning, and one of the lines is, "Lift up your hearts, each new hour holds new chances for a new beginning. Do not be wedded forever to fear, yoked eternally to brutishness." It feels very much like the same message that Joe Biden was sending. And so while, yes, this is a moment where he is showing his belief in the Constitution and traditional norms, him being here, Barack Obama, George W. Bush, Bill Clinton, more than photo ops, Mike Pence being here, the two women that Donald Trump defeated, Kamala Harris and Hillary Clinton. It goes beyond that. It really is, I think, for them, an important symbol of the message they want to send on this day that belongs to Donald Trump. He said 4 years ago, we'll be back in some form, and that form now is, as we watch the folks coming around in the motorcade, that form is